Okay, there it is. And Luis, go ahead and you can.
Okay, so today we're just going to have kind of a roundtable discussion and discuss the things that we have used to help us to get better and healthier sleep. And we would like to know the things that didn't work also, as well as the things that did work, so that we can inform people about different options of things that are out there to get better sleep. I know it seems to be a regular topic of people having challenges with sleeping. So I figured that we would kind of do that today since we don't have a speaker. And I don't know if anybody has any opening ideas or thoughts about what they're using or doing.
No, I
a lot of melatonin.
Well,
I tried
melatonin.
melatonin. It just makes me groggy. It doesn't help me sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a couple of experiences. So really with this, the pyrolargin. So what I have, and I've had a couple of friends, so they do the inner elbow and a little bit of stretch, then the sleep quality improves. And I have also experienced it. Sometime I'll wake up middle of the night and I cannot go back to sleep. I'll go on my stretch bench and then I sleep very quickly. So it does. Yeah. So pyrolargin does help in the sleep. Again, I think each individual is different, and depending on what kind of problem the body has, it could vary from person to person. What is the root cause of sleeplessness? But in some instances, it does seem to work.
Okay, great. And so it was just those things. It's just the lodgin stretching primarily and the slapping the inner elbow.
Right. Yeah. So slapping the inner elbow, it's quite effective.
Just one or both elbows, Shri?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, both.
I'll try that. Yeah. My problem is getting to sleep because my mind doesn't stop. So I have to listen to relaxing music all the time and kind of drift off somewhere. Now, I don't have a problem going back to sleep, but as you get older, and I have to drink a lot of water at the end because I'm on that fiber stuff we drink to give you that get up and go power in the morning. So I'm up 2-3 times a night, but fortunately, I don't have a problem falling asleep. It's just when I first go into bed, it's that falling asleep. I have to shut the mind off. That's the problem. So, but I'm getting better at it, but I will try that. And I know the other problem is I try to watch somebody like Jimmy Fallon or Stephen Colbert to end my night with some humor instead of all the noise and everything else. But then I get interested in it, so, let me just see his next guest. The next thing you know, the next TV program is coming on. So I did notice when I was at my friend's Lil's. I'm stopping at 11:30 at night. I'm going. And I would take my melatonin, but I didn't, it took me a little longer to go to sleep, but not like I thought it would because I had been going when I should be relaxing, getting ready for bed, And I think it was just the idea that we weren't watching a lot of TV. And I think that helped. I wasn't glued to the TV. And I know they say the TV, your phone, shut it off and everything a half an hour before. That does help for some people.
They can the prevailing research now says that the blue light can actually keep you awake up to 2 hours after your last viewing of some kind of digital device. So, I don't know how many of us actually turn off a screen 2 hours before we go to bed, but
I did see blue light glasses at Walmart. When I get my new prescription, I want to get that coating that filters it out. Definitely.
Yeah. I actually had that on my glasses this last time, and I've noticed that it's really cut down on eye strain and headaches. So due to eye strain. So yeah, and that does help. Does anybody else have any, before I jump in here, I'm just wondering if anybody else has other suggestions and things that they have done. Oh, I wanted to ask Shri, how long do you do is it 5 minutes per arm that you do or is it just, however long you want to do it?
Even a couple of minutes, because if you, I'm in the night, you don't want to do it very long.
Right.
Yeah, and the stretching, I mean, not everybody has a stretching bench, that's a problem. So the most of the time you're stuck with the Paida. So just do a couple of minutes each.
Can I say something on the
Sure.
blue light?
Sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I just recently found out that the fluorescent bulbs and the screen of the TV or the computer is basically has the blue, well, the fluorescent doesn't block, but the regular condensing bulbs actually have a yellow tint to it. So it helps to cut down on the blue light. And of course, if you wear the yellow glasses, that's going to block out the blue light as well.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't
That's
even
good.
think about the fluorescent lights having that blue frequency too. So we're kind of double whammy.
Yeah, the ED bulbs and the fluorescing are not good. They just create more health issues to our eyes. So going back to the condensing bulbs is the way to go to cut down on the exposure.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
So,
there's a fella, Herbs and Beads from Canada. He has a bunch of videos on YouTube, and he talks about some of these things.
so that's,
Zoom meeting? Sorry.
so you said herbs and bees?
Herbs and Beads.
Oh, beads.
Yeah, and plus, I could forward Sri the exact heading for his site, and anybody wants to look at it, because it gives you instruction how to do things and warns you about some of these dangers that
Oh,
we're
okay.
facing today.
Sure.
That would be
Yeah.
great. So when I was going through all of the health challenges about 4 or 5 years ago, I tried a whole bunch of different things for sleep. And a couple of the things actually stuck. One of those that seems to help is when you do a yoga pose called legs up the wall, where you quite literally just put your, and you put your legs up in the air, up against the wall. And and then you just sit there for 5-10 minutes or whatever, and it actually improves your blood pressure and that type of stuff. So if you did that, say 5 minutes or 5 to 10 minutes a night before you go to bed, it actually improves sleep after a couple of weeks of doing it. So that's a very simple way to improve your sleep. If you were, I'm with you, Kathy, my brain just starts going and going and going. So one of the things that my cranial sacral therapist, he does cranial sacral massage and stuff, that she stumbled on was a supplement called L-Tryptophan.
right.
And tryptophan is that amino acid that is in things like turkey, and I think there's a couple of vegetables that have it in it that causes drowsiness. But it's an amino acid that we don't produce a lot of in our body, and so and it's the version that I get is, they're vegan capsules and that type of stuff of natural derived L-tryptophan. But if you take 500 to 1,000 milligrams of those, that is my go-to now, along with the melatonin, and it really, really helps you to fall asleep very, fairly quickly. It's not habit forming. Your body will, I've had it tested several times for efficacy and that type of stuff. So it is something that, and my son is now taking it. It's been helping him to fall asleep. So especially if you have trouble falling asleep, the L-tryptophan is one that will help. And in conjunction with that, if you have anxious thoughts, you can take another amino acid called L-theanine, which I have gotten from, recommended nutritionists and functional medicine doctors and those type of things, because it is a natural anti-anxiety supplement that will help. So if you take the L-theanine with the L-Tryptophan in conjunction, it can really help with that hamster wheel that goes off in the, before you're trying to go to sleep at night. There's also, you can also do, if you can handle the melatonin, there is extended release melatonin that also helps you stay asleep. If you, that is an option for those. I also do different meditation techniques and things like that, but I'll let other people, but those, so I could put those in the chat, the L-tryptophan and the L-theanine, and then so you guys can look them up if you want to see if any of those will be something that you want to check out. So does anybody else have things that they tried and they didn't work, or tried and they did work? Yeah, just kind of like, throw some ideas out there.
I think each one of us is different, and we have to find our own place that we feel comfortable, that works for us, because everything doesn't work for everybody. And
Right.
Sometimes you have to experiment and what works. And then sometimes it's just as simple as, I don't see your name on the screen, Kathy, that basically turning off the computer earlier and relaxing before going to bed. And think about pleasant thoughts, or, like Sri said, the slapping and, these kinds of, we all have to try it out, what works for us. I mean, I've been in my own journey. I've tried many things, and, a lot of things didn't work, but, some things do work. Yeah.
I know I do little
So
stretches.
try it out.
I do little stretches before I go to bed, and when I wake up, before I even get out of the bed, to get the body moving here. But I remember when I was in theater, before we started our class, she would have us do an exercise where you squeeze one part of the body, like squeeze your toes really, 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 really hard, release. And then squeeze your feet really, really, really. And then your ankles, and then your calves, one at a time, all the way up until you're like squinching your like this, and then you do your whole body, and then just release. And that does help to get some of the tension out and the stress. I haven't done it in a while. Maybe I should go back to that. The stretching does help me though. It's only like a minute maybe, but it just kind of gets things a little bit less stressed, more relaxed. That does help.
Yeah, the other thing that we haven't talked about is meditation.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I will, Daryl, when we, years ago, like when we first first got married, he had a method or whatever. I don't even where did you get that from, Daryl, where you would relax, you would just kind of go from your toes all the way up to your head?
I just read it in a book one day. Literally, I was sitting in a mall in Reno with my mother, and we were just hanging out. We had the day to hang out, and I was hanging out in a B. Dalton bookstore. And so I just flipped open a book and read it, and then I kept trying it.
So the basic idea is to, just like you were talking about, Kathy, with the bunching up your muscles or whatever. This one is actively focusing on each part of your body from your toes and actively, like, consciously relaxing them, and then moving up the foot, to the ball of the foot and the ankle and that type of stuff, and then making the thing. And a lot of times what you find is that if you're focusing so much on that, you're not focusing on anything else. And then you even fall asleep before you even reach your head.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So it's a, yeah, and that is a form of meditation. So I didn't know if Cassie or John had any thoughts on this. We're just throwing out ideas for, and then seeing if anything that people haven't heard of or would like to try.
I'm just listening and trying to get new ideas too. So,
Have you
You know-
tried now? What are you trying right now? I mean, is there anything specific that you're doing right now?
Actually, I'm just still helping people like with cancer and stuff, and with the ascorbic acid therapy and anything that's good that comes my way, I'm willing to venture into.
Okay. And Cassie, did you have any thought? I know you unmuted there for a second.
Well, did you say Kathy?
I said Cassie, sorry, Cassie, not Kathy. I know it's kind
Yeah, I was
of
gonna say. Okay.
Sorry, Cassie, go ahead again.
No worries. I find, well, not an excess of alcohol. It really doesn't help you sleep. Having wine before bed doesn't help you sleep. I find a mix of chamomile and a little lemon balm and a good book snuggled in my bed works every time.
Huh.
So there are several teas that you can try. One of the things that I did try one time was valerian, a tea that had valerian in it. The only thing is you got to be careful with that one because boy, that will give you some really weird dreams. So
Oh, wow.
so you got to be careful about the amount of valerian that you use.
I never heard
Yes,
that.
and mugwort will also give you insane dreams. If you take a tea made of mugwort herbs, you'll be on a psychedelic trip.
So if you want wild dreams, if there's some reason for it, then there you go. Mugwort and valerian, you can really just
I think I'll stick to linden tea. Thank you. I'm trying to calm it down.
So, and it is true when they talk about if you go and you do a search for sleep, having a routine that you do to wind down at the end of the day does help. If having some kind of herbal tea or whatever when you go to bed is nice, and then magnesium is very good. Now for me, I found that, there's a ton of like magnesium supplements that you could take that you could use as a drink, a warm drink before you go to bed. And some people swear by those. So maybe that might be something that you guys can try, is the magnesium drinks. I found that they don't seem to help me as much, but taking a bath with Epsom salts, which is the magnesium, is very helpful for me to go to sleep. It also has an energetic component too, because negative energy or whatever is broken up by water. So if you take a shower or a warm bath before going to bed, half an hour before going to bed, that will also break up from an energy level. It'll break up the negative stuff that will kind of send your brain spinning. Siren and a couple of other people have turned me onto that, and how the water will break it up. So if you're also very, very anxious at any given time, you can, and find yourself wound up before going to bed, you can take a short shower or a warm bath, and it will calm you down. It's the same principle as like the negative ions you would get from being near a waterfall or when it's raining outside or whatever. Usually have a sense of well-being. You can kind of imitate that with showers and hot baths and those type of things. And there's also a lot of essential oils that you can experiment with. The go-to for everybody is lavender. Some people are allergic to lavender, so you have to be careful about that type of thing. It is not that common for people to be you know, allergic to lavender, but they have sleep compounds or, you know, ones that are combined. And if you were to take something like lavender, you want to put it in a conductive oil like fractionated coconut oil or avocado oil. And then you put a couple of drops in there and rub that. Put it on the bottom of your feet when you go to sleep, instead of putting it around your, you know, your face or your wrists or your hands or whatever. If you put it on the bottom of your feet, it helps more with calming down and relaxing than if you put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Just a note, when you're doing oils, just make sure you're using an oil that your cat or dog are okay with, because some oils they are allergic to. Like I have a cat and I can't use tea tree oil around her because if she gets in it, it could potentially kill her.
Yeah, citrus compounds are not good for cats and pets. You can also go online and find a list of the ones that you want to avoid for the cats that will sometimes cause respiratory distress, or if they were to get it onto their paws and lick it and cause abdominal distress and that type of stuff. So
I remember when I was diffusing oils when I had pneumonia, that was one of the things I was doing. And it was later on, your citrus oils, your really pungent ones like thyme, oregano, tea tree, you shouldn't diffuse that in a small area if you have cats around. It's a little too much for their senses. So it didn't seem to bother mine, but I wouldn't do it again. You know, don't take my chances to. Besides, you know, I don't know if the 30-year-old cat could handle the smell. So
oh,
I
wow.
don't want to do her in too early.
So, and I don't know if anyone has anything that they particularly were like, you need to make sure you don't do, like Cassie was saying, don't drink, you know, alcohol and stuff before you go to bed. Does anyone have any other suggestions on what not to do before you go to bed?
Exercise.
Exercise. Yeah, that is, you know, if you end up, you know, running around and exercising, getting your heart rate up, they say, boy, it's like something like 2 or 3 hours. You got to do that before. If you're going to exercise, you want to make sure that it's 2 or 3 hours before you go to bed. Because if you do it within an hour of going to bed, it's going to keep you awake.
Now, I became re-familiar with earthing or grounding.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that might be beneficial to some people. I gave one of my roommates an earthing sheet, but he hasn't tried it yet because I was interested in knowing how it worked. If you know, that might be something down the line to look at. I mean, if nothing else, it'll help reduce or eliminate the inflammation in your body. So I just thought I'd throw that out.
Yeah. And you know what? I was actually looking into that the other day because several people that I know have created their own Dr. Patterson and Siren, and I think maybe even Jackie and some other people have, they kind of like created their own or went through and came up with the earthing sheets that you, now there's the, you want to ground them. And I think, I can't remember, you know, some of them, they actually make them so that you can just plug them into your outlets to ground the earthing sheets. And then, but I mean, you can go like all the way to the max, like some people have where they actually have earthing beds and they have the whole thing. But people really swear by those, and you can go to, I can't remember where, maybe I can look it up. But I wanted to try it, but they have, it's become a big thing. And so you got to be careful as to which ones you get, where you get them from. I know they have earthing.com, which has earthing and grounding products. And I think they're pretty good with the earthing.com. where you can get grounders and things like that. They even have shoes that you could use that will get you in contact, because we wear plastic all the time. But yeah, so they have throws, and they have, they have a kit to do for your bed that you can put on there. And some places actually have sheets and things, but people seem to swear by that for the inflammation and getting better sleep. And I've been really tempted to try some of those and see how they work.
Well, they have mats. You know, if you sit watching TV or at the computer, you can put your feet on and do the same thing, earthing mats.
One of the things, this is one of the things that Daryl and I found out, is that if you have Wi-Fi in your home for your phones or whatever, you need to turn the Wi-Fi off before you go to bed, because that Wi-Fi frequency was causing us to sleep poorly. And that was a very big shift for us, because we were like, why are we sleeping so badly? And then somebody just mentioned, well, hey, maybe you should try turning off your Wi-Fi at night and see how you sleep. And it was like night and day. It really was. Wow. It was so much. It disrupted our sleep so much. And so now it's a habit that we have to turn off the Wi-Fi at night. And then it really is kind of funny, because, my son will come out and he's like, man, I just slept like crud last night. And then we go, oh, shoot, we forgot to turn the Wi-Fi off. It really is that big of a difference. So if you have Wi-Fi that you run in your home, usually on the router board, is that what it is, Daryl? The router board?
Well, it's on the router, not the board. It's just a router.
Right.
And usually there's a button to just turn off the Wi-Fi signal.
And so, you just stop it broadcasting through your home. So, because that thing goes like all the way out, like, sometimes past your home, those signals do.
The other thing is the smart meters. If your bedroom is the meters on the other side of the wall of where you're sleeping, that can affect you as well.
Sure, I believe that.
Yeah. So if you
you're getting radiation
from the smart meters, they've been trying to convince us that we need to take out our old meter and put a smart meter in, and we're like, no. No, thank you. We're going to stick with the other ones. Felice, do you know, I know there's, I think there's a website that I've been to a couple of times, and I can't remember the name of it, but does that one person that you talked about that had the YouTube commercial, YouTube videos and stuff, does he talk about where you can go to get them to replace your smart meter with another analog meter?
No, he doesn't have that. There's other people that have other states that have tried to get the utility company to remove it, but the utility company, you have to contact the utility company. Some of them have where basically they charge you a fee because they have to read it physically. So and then they charge you so much each month. So you're paying for the service that they change it out, and then you pay a fee every month.
Yeah, unfortunately, they get you coming and going, but I think in that case, your health is probably worth that. So
if it all depends on how sensitive you are. Mm-hmm. What I've read online as well, is that you can put a wire cage over the meter itself.
Oh yeah.
And that reduces the radiation off of it. So that's another way.
Yeah. So if you think that your sleep is being disrupted by something, you're trying all those things. You're like getting off of your computer 2 hours before, you're not exercising, you're doing supplements, you're doing all this stuff, and your sleep is still being disrupted. It is likely that you're looking at something that is frequency based, like EMF or or the Wi-Fi or something like that. And there are things out there to help clean up the electrical stuff in your bedroom. Like Felice was saying, like the box that you could put around your smart meter. But there's other things that you can do to help with dirty electricity that's coming out of your plugs, and turning off the Wi-Fi and helping, and then maybe getting a grounding thing for your bed, which also mitigates. I found out that the grounding thing is supposedly supposed to help with the bad frequencies as well. So these are all
the grounding part is, I think we have a misunderstanding there. The grounding is basically grounding ourselves to the magnetic field of the earth.
Mhm.
The dirty electricity and the radiation is totally different. This is radio frequency pollution that basically, as with the cell phone, you have a signal that is coming to your phone, and it's passing through either your brain or wherever you have the phone, is passing through your body. And that's where the damage becomes from the frequencies. The same thing with the Wi-Fi and radio and all these electric modern conveniences that we have today are basically polluting and slowly killing us.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I keep telling people is that, if it can go through walls,
Yeah.
it can penetrate you. So we may be more dense than the walls, but it's still going to penetrate the human body to a certain degree, and maybe even go all the way through. So you're looking at, and we are beings that have an electrical signal of our own. We put off, we are an electrical body, and when you try to put other frequencies through that, you're going to disrupt that, and that's going to cause health issues. So, and sleep may be the minimum. Disrupting your sleep is probably the minimum that it is doing.
Yeah.
So hello, Pablo. We haven't we just saw you join in, and we're just talking about things that we have done for that work and don't work for sleep. Oh, unfortunately, we can't hear you, Pablo. I'm sorry. So I don't know why the audio is not working on there. We see your video. So you're like, okay. Sorry, just like
It's a computer thing again. What can
I
you say?
know, technology just is just frustrating.
Yeah, yeah. Now I have read where you can put tinfoil over your smart meter, and that'll help prevent some of the EMFs, but I have to look into that a little bit more.
Yeah, I haven't heard the aluminum foil, but it is basically, if you get a wire, the old aluminum screen that were for the windows, now they have vinyl. They don't work. You have to get an aluminum screen, and you wrap it around the meter.
I gotcha.
And that reduces it. Or you could buy one. You could. There's companies that make those.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I think we also are running up against is this idea that every single person needs like 8 hours of sleep, right? We have this thing where it's like they're saying, you have to have 8 hours of sleep. But what the sleep studies have been showing is that every single person is completely different in that regard. And quite literally, you could have somebody, I think, for me, I'm like, geez, if I get less than 7 hours of sleep, I'm not doing very well, right? But sometimes 7 hours is like all I need. And then I know that that there are people that seem to do well on, 2 4-hour sets of sleep. They found it was interesting because they were looking back in history, and back in the Middle Ages, the historians kept coming across a thing called second sleep. And they were like, what the heck is second sleep? They, it was like, they didn't know what was going on. But what they found out is that the practice that they typically had back then was that you would go to sleep when this, shortly after the sun went down. And then everybody would sleep for about 4 hours. And then they would wake up, and then they would do 2 hours worth of quiet something, whether it was, sewing or mending or, just some of those something in there. They would end up doing some kind of type of indoor household chores for 2 hours or so, 2 to 3 hours. And then everybody would go back to sleep until the sun came up. And so they had these 4-hour chunks, and that was standard sleep for everybody. And and they're like, wow, we didn't even realize that. So over time, we've kind of trained ourselves to sleep in these, 6 to 8 hour blocks. Whereas back then it was not unusual for us to sleep for 4 hours from about 8 to midnight, wake up from midnight to 2 and work, and then go back to bed from 2 to 6, and then get up with the sun and go about our day. And so genetically, they're saying that, so these people that will only sleep for about 4 hours, and then they wake up and they're like, oh my gosh, I need to go back to sleep. Well, it actually makes sense to get up and read for an hour or two, or do something quiet for an hour or two, and then go back to sleep again for another 2 to 4 hours, because our bodies haven't shifted so much that that evolutionary change has made it so that we're not getting enough sleep if we don't get it all in one solid chunk. So I just thought that was fascinating.
Well, I have read too that it depends on what time you go to sleep, because after 10 o'clock and 12 o'clock midnight, there are certain bodily functions and hormonal things that start working at that time, especially for young kids, the growth spurts and everything else. And we keep saying, no, 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 I still have to keep going. So we're kind of fighting with our body. Whereas, the farmers and all of them, they had the right idea. You go to bed shortly after sundown or whatever, and wake up at sunset. That's our body. That was supposedly our body rhythm, because that's when the melatonin and everything is greater. And then the sun rose. That's why they say the minute you wake up, open the drapes so you can get sunlight in. Now, personally, 7.5 hours is a good amount for me. 7, yeah, 8 or 9, which I have done. Unless I get up and go, I'll just sit on the couch, go through email. And then it's like, okay, all right, I will sit up. Let me have my second cup of coffee,
One of the things that I've heard about melatonin, natural melatonin that the body produces, is daylight. If you're working at home and not experiencing sunlight, then your body's not making the natural melatonin to work for you, because there's a rhythm that the body goes through. And as we just said, when the sun goes down, you start feeling drowsy. So if you adapt to that, to go to sleep at those times when you start feeling, whether it is 4 hours or whatever work, you have to experiment and will work for you. I mean, for me right now, sleeping 4 hours and staying awake 2 hours probably wouldn't work for me, because I've, in the past I've done that. I go to sleep, I wake up, and then sometimes you just wired and you can't fall back to sleep. So you have to see how your body reacts. But, experiencing and being outside in the sun and getting that light to your eyes is going to create that melatonin when you're ready to go to, when the gets dark.
Yeah, and it's, I've read some things on that too, and they were talking about you have to get the sunlight on your face, especially, the forehead and the eyes. You can close your eyes even, but to just hold your face up into the sunlight for, even 10 minutes a day will help your body to produce enough melatonin. But you have to be, actually outside in the sunlight. You can't be sitting there like looking through a window, even though you do get a lot of that stuff through a window. But that's the recommendation to get out there.
I know with me, and every time I do it, I kick myself. I can be dragging my butt, and I don't have a butt, okay? At 8:39, I don't. I look like a boy in the back. Well, in the front too, but we won't get into that anyway. What was I saying? Oh, you have to have some levity, I can't do anything about it anyway. That I'm dragging 8:30, 9 o'clock. I just want to go to bed. Oh, I've got to make the coffee for tomorrow. Oh, I got to feed the cat. So I push through that. And what happens is 11:30 comes, 12 o'clock comes, and there I am, wide awake. It's like, if I just sat on the couch, I could have fallen asleep, and then I could have gotten, an hour, 2 hours sleep? And it's just, it bothers the heck out of me. That's when I take the handful of melatonin and say, okay, hurry up and work. I got to get back. I got to get to sleep now. But that's the thing. We push through our natural body rhythm, and then we mess it all up.
You just figured out what doesn't work for you.
Exactly. Now, also too, though, I've heard where even if you have to get up during the middle of the night, don't flip lights on, because that changes your sleep pattern too. Take your cell phone and use the flashlight or something, or have a night light, preferably, I think red won't disrupt the sleep. If you have to go to the bathroom, get a drink of water or whatever. So I try not to flip on any lights and just hope and pray no cats are underneath my feet.
Yeah, I know. That's
That'll wake you up.
I crash around in the dark as pretty point, as my husband, I slam into the side of the bed all the time. Geez, poor guy, wake him up. So.
Yeah. Can't think of anything else I did or used to do. But I will try some of these things to help me, fall asleep faster.
There's also some things that you can do. You were talking about music. Mm-hmm. That where you were listening to those type of things, and there's a certain hertz. I think you can look, and it's like what is it? Is it 420? 8 some, I don't know. I can't remember the hertz level, but you can actually go on to like YouTube or whatever, and and it's like and type in music for sleep or hertz for sleep, and we'll give you that specific hertz or whatever, and they will have these things that will last for 8-10 hours, that you can listen to. But one of the other things that you can do is what is called bilateral beats. And you can download the MP3s for these, and they're music that has bilateral beats that will go back and forth between, the left and the right of your headphones or whatever, and it will listen. And basically, it kind of it's kind of hypnotic, but it also kind of connects your right side of your brain and your left side of your brain together, and it reduces anxiety a lot. And when I was going through a lot of anxiety, even when I wasn't sleeping or whatever, I had those recordings of the songs with bilateral beats in there, and you can listen to it. And sometimes if you wanted to, there's even apps that you can put on your phone for bilateral beats, and you can listen to those, and it will run through like a 10-minute one to help you calm down. But they do have ones for sleep as well, which are very, they're great. So, and I just,
Isn't
again,
that going to defeat the purpose? You're gonna have the cell phone next to
I
you?
know you're gonna have the cell phone
Right.
next to you. That's why I ended up putting it on an MP3 player that was, you know, run by a little battery, because I was like, there's no way I'm gonna have a phone right next to me.
Yeah.
But you know, so yeah, there's some, the nice thing, one of the things you can do, like a lot of times, like people who have apps on their phones, they'll put their phone on airplane mode so that it doesn't have as much, that's just using it as a, but you're still wanting that thing as far away from your head as possible, because even then the battery that's in it, so that's the problem. But I would try to find some other option, like I said, like the little MP3 player or something like that, that is not using
Yeah.
you know, electricity or the frequencies or Wi-Fi or whatever. But all of these options, I find it funny that all of these options that they have for everything is
Yeah.
all has to do with, like, you know, using your cell phone that's just irradiating the heck out of us. And yet, and they're having all these health apps on there, and you're like, wow, just you carrying around that thing is not very healthy.
Yeah, definitely.
The thing we forget in 21st century is that we're so used to all this technology that we need to keep it more simple and take some of these things away when we go to sleep, and to dedicate the bedroom to sleep and not to do all these other things that interfere.
Right.
So because I mean, now, like, what was it? It was probably 20 years ago where it was every kid had a TV in their room, you know.
Yeah.
And so now, like the past 10 years, they were like, get the TV out of the kids' room, get the devices out of your kids' hands before they go to sleep. I'm constantly telling my kids, it's like, hey, if you're having, get off of the computer, at least 2 hours before you go to bed, or else you're not going to fall asleep fast enough. So
yeah. I remember reading in Prevention magazine, it's got to be, I don't know, almost 30 years ago, where a gentleman who's obviously into health, he thought about it and he said, I just have this feeling it's not good to have electricity running through my house at nighttime. They may not have the lights on or anything, but he knew it was still circulating in his house. So he flipped off all his fuses at nighttime.
Yeah, I have heard of that before too. And there was another a video that I watched just this year where a guy had put a kill switch, and so that he didn't have to flip all of the things, and he just put a kill switch, and every single night he would go out there and he turned it off. He says it means that my coffee is later in the morning. Because he has to go out there and turn it back on, or but yeah, he just flat out just shut the power off to his entire house.
But I found that interesting so many years ago, and he just had that idea that he didn't think it was healthy. Now, I've also read instances where this person had a lot of pain or wasn't sleeping well, and they found out, and I think I remembered it correctly, that underneath him was a small stream, but it was going in the opposite direction of the way he was laying. So here's his head, but the water was going against him, okay, instead of with him. I believe that was it. So I don't know, they plugged up the stream or something. He said he'd got a better night's sleep. I know, water, our body's made of water. I don't know.
There's that, and I don't know about that philosophy too, about if you want I can't remember what it is, you want your head facing north in your bedroom, or south or east or west. I don't know which one it is, but that the way that your head is facing could potentially have an effect on your sleep.
The magnetic field. It's the only thing I can think of. It's like this gentleman, I don't know if any of you are familiar with a Coral Castle. It's down way south of me, past Miami. We're talking about magnetic fields, where this guy came over from Germany and he wanted to impress a woman so she would come over and marry him. So he built a literal coral castle. Now he was the only one who worked on it, and they were 1 to 5 ton bricks, let's say, of coral. And he made a coral door that anybody could open with their finger because it was so precisely balanced. Now he only worked at night, and he's the only one who built this. And the man weighed about 95 pounds, and he had 4 things that he worked with. They brought in the best engineers, everybody, and they can't figure out how this guy did it. But evidently he knew about the sun, the moon, the magnetic fields, and he built this all by himself. And he moved all these tons of coral by himself, but the engineers can't figure out how he did it.
I wonder how people slept in that. Did anybody ever sleep in there? I'd be like,
no, we just admired it for the, the technology and
the technology and everything, because I do know that they talk about how, if you go up and you sleep in a cabin that has no electricity, most people talk about how they have a much better sleep, or if they go camping and they're sleeping in a tent, they'll have a much better sleep because there's no electricity or any of that type of stuff there.
When that hurricane hit about, I don't know, 10 years ago, and I was without electricity for a month, but fortunately it was cool enough and I could crack my window open a few inches because we had the hurricane shutter still on. But there was no electricity, and it's true. Between the no electricity and the fresh air, I slept great.
Yeah. So maybe there is something to us while putting a kill switch on our house and then shutting off all of the electricity before we go to sleep.
Yeah, breathing some fresh air. Yeah.
It's actually the same thing when we take the boat out and we anchor off and we're just in the middle of the lake or the bay or wherever, and we just rock. You get the best night's sleep ever.
So yeah, maybe that's the key to everything, is just shutting everything off so that we have like no frequencies, no whatever, running through us when we're trying to sleep.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to try. Unfortunately,